Good morning, everyone. About 40 years ago, in the 1970s, there was a great exodus of Iranian Jews from Iran because of the circumstances, the situation there. There was a lot of support for them from the Jewish Agency and from other agencies as well, on the hope and expectation that they would all emigrate to Israel and that they would bolster the country and be yet another aliyah that would strengthen Israel. Unfortunately for Israel, most of the Iranians decided that there was another promised land for them, and it lay not in the east but in the west. They wanted to go to Los Angeles. They wanted to settle in America. It was they had this idea that it was a country of incredible opportunity, and there were other Iranians who were already there, and you could become very rich and one thing and another. This created enormous consternation as to whether they were deserving of, if they come to Israel, we'll support them, we'll give them money, we'll get them set up, etc. But hey, you want to go to Los Angeles, you want to go to Eretz America, the Golden Medina, that's your business. It's not something which we're going to particularly assist you with. And somebody in London who's very involved in this whole situation, writes to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's in the 1970s. It's a letter which was written just about 40 years ago. And the Rebbe says to him, well, thank you very much for all the enclosures and for keeping me completely up to date with what's happening with the Iranian Jewry, and may God grant that your efforts and those of your co-workers should be met with great hatzlacha, with great success. The question, he says, about your attitude in certain circles towards refugees and immigrants who do not wish to settle in Eretz Israel. It's strange that there should be any doubt whatsoever what the proper attitude should be in this matter, because especially from a Torah point of view, it's inconceivable that the mitzvah of gimilut chasadim, of care for others, and tzedakah towards Jews in distress, which are rooted, of course, in the great principle of the Torah of ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, that you should love your fellows yourself, should be made conditional upon what is in effect compulsory settlement in a certain place, failing which the help would be denied altogether or given insufficiently. And the Rebbe is completely outraged by this suggestion that the only basis upon which they should be supported, either fully or partially, is if they go to Israel. He said, because this is compulsory. And how can you take away people's choice of it? And you're not going to help a fellow Jew just because they are not going to meet your ideological standards. They're not going to do what you think is the right thing for them to do. It seems at that point in time, Israel hadn't made an appeal for increased immigration on compassionate grounds, meaning to say to unite families, etc. He said, and it's ironic, and this is a gross understatement, that this attitude is taken in conjunction with an appeal for increased immigration on compassionate grounds, so as to unite families, etc., while at the same time, compassion would be denied to the immigrants by our own fellow Jews unless they go where they're directed. This was a very strong opinion. By the way, there were many people who disagreed and felt that, no, I'm really sorry if they don't go to Israel, they're not deserving of our help. But the Rebbe felt that as a matter of ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, just for the rights of every individual to be able to make choices, and our obligation to help them under all circumstances. If it was a question of them being able to leave Iran, wherever they wanted to go, we needed to help them. And it was controversial, but it was rooted once again in the very strong principles of Torah as he understood it. Okay, call Israel, and then a little bit later on I'll tell you a story about a whole bunch of Iranians who landed up and got stuck here in England, and how Lindy and I and our family became their surrogate parents for a period of about 3 months. Okay, another story.